Hello, my friends. How are you today? Happy Saturday. Here I am on a stormy Saturday night. I am coming and filming with you, but I'm curious, like, what is it you guys do on a Saturday night? Are you guys like going out to dinner? Are you hanging out with family or friends? Are you Netflix and chilling? Like, do you read? What are your Saturday, excuse me, routines? Like, what do you guys like to do? I mean, so many weekends of my life were been monopolized by other people's schedules that, the weekends have been coming and I'm like, I kind of like this. Like, none of my kids are in a sport like right this second, like that has things on the weekends. So, it's been actually really nice to have those weekends. And I've really been kind of focused on, there was a period where I was like, I need to get out. I need to be away so that I can explore who I am and what I want to do so I can establish this self-care, which then established self-love. And I still had room to love other people. I just was part of that equation now. And, it's not like I have this like selfish love and it's like, oh no, it's all about me and no, like I'm still a part of, many communities, including my family and my friends and, everybody else out there. So, it goes beyond me, but I just get to be a part of that equation now, which is pretty cool. So like my Saturday this morning, like I just got up super early. I did my whole like magnificent morning routine. Now that I'm getting in the habit of it, like I know how much time I need to allocate for my meditation because that's a new thing. And so like having these plans and these habits that are now becoming non-negotiables, I don't have to like write them down to remember them. It's like, okay, this is just what's happening. It becomes part of my personal system of life. It's been great. And I, got out of the house super early. I ended up going to the gym and like I was so busy last night, like educating myself on how to, like, how do I do this? Like beyond, okay, I'm doing the filming and I know that that's like one crucial component, right? Because if there's no content, how can that get out there? And so, but I don't know, like this is what I am figuring out and kind of even know. And so, for any of you out there that have an idea, come along with me on this journey. I am going to be happy to share that because I think that everybody has a story and a reason and a purpose. And if you have the courage to go out there and share yours, oh my gosh, like let's try to make this easier for everybody. Where is the guidebook? Where is here's what you want to do kind of like lesson plan here so that we can progress and go along, because it's really difficult to go from like, how do I get here? And I'll get there. And I know it's small things. So, I always reiterate this whole thing about, choices and small things. So like this morning, I make the choice to go to the gym and I thought it was going to be one instructor and it was a different one. And I was like, oh, I was kind of surprised. But again, this was my first instructor that I ever took in a class. So it was kind of like, okay. And it was like, I've been trying to go to her classes, but it just hasn't worked out with I haven't been able to get into there. I only have so much time, right? So I make a choice to do this with you. I'm basically saying no to other choices and other things, and vice versa. When I'm doing other things and I'm not filming or I'm not dancing, I'm choosing yes to something, but that inevitably says no to many, many other things. And so I have to choose my time, how I, what's pleasurable, but also what, like, there's so many things that are pleasurable. There's so many things that I want to be doing, and there's so many things that I have to be doing that are like responsibilities. And so, learning how to balance this time and choose the life and the things that I'm doing that I want to do, even though sometimes I want to do more. Like I got so excited today because it was my first time doing like her class on a Saturday, and I had so much fun. Like actually, either it was a combination of I finally got these moves, or I was familiar with her teaching style. I loved the music selection she had today. It was like a combination of like old school hip hop songs. There was some J-Lo in there. There was some modern, like the rap music with the Spanish in there. So there was like a lot of Latina flair in there. I don't know. I just had a really, really good time. And I felt like the moves moved where it was enough to like, I could anticipate what the moves were. So I could let loose and show my own little swagger, my own little personality in it. Because for me, the dancing isn't just copying somebody else. It's, you know, expressing my own personal art within the form. So I know I talk about it a lot because it's this newfound thing I loved. I didn't know I had any talent in this whatsoever. And I'm not saying I'm like, you know, I'm on the America's Got Talent dancing over here or anything like that. But I like it. It's so beautiful to find something that like 3 years ago I had no interest or desire, you know, like beyond like, oh, you know, I thought dance was limited to, you know, the club in my 20s and, you know, that was gone. And so to have this place where and this outlet that's like healthy and challenging and it's using my brain, like I just can't help but be excited about it. So I'm going to continue to talk about it, I'm sure, because it is something that is like a highlight of many of my days. So yeah, so I did the dance day and I had just so much fun. And, you know, I saw people in the class. I don't go to my local club here too often because again, I'm choosing, you know, to go to the instructor that like, and the style of, it's the instructor and the style of dances he does that really like speak to me personally. And the other ones are fine and do a great job, but just there's, you know, again, like I say, there's something just really magical about it. And I think it's because he is so passionate about it. This is his primary job. It's not like he has another job and then he does this on the side or anything. Like this is it. This is his, you know, what he eats, drinks, breathes, loves, and adores. And when somebody has that much intensity and passion and courage to say no to everything else to focus on this, there you just bring a different energy. And that is so, I mean, every single person I've ever talked to, you know, in regards to him is like, oh my gosh, she's the best. And, you know, like he's so much fun to watch move and all that. And so, like I say, if you bring that same energy to anything, whatever it is you love, for him, it happens to be dance fitness, but you, it may be shoemaking or, you know, writing or any, you know, there's a sport, a different sport, pickleball or something else. And you bring that passion and it's like people can't help but stop and watch. And, you know, I personally have so much adoration for him. Like I always used to think too, like when I first met, like, it is such a shame in some ways. Like I appreciate it because, you know, I get the benefit of it, but I'm like, I have watched so many different YouTubers dance, especially in the beginning when I first started. And there was nobody like him at all. And I'm like, I've watched all these ones and enjoyed them that were far inferior than him. So like, you know, I wish in some ways that he had his own channel that like, you know, where his dancing could touch every part of this globe because it's so good, you know. And then of course, like I'm a mom and, you know, I worry about like living in the Bay Area and financial stability. And none of that is my business. None of that has he ever asked or, you know, we've ever communicated about, but, you know, it's just, I see how hard he puts his heart and soul and his body. And I know sometimes, you know, I've seen firsthand how fragile bodies can be. And so blessings to him that nothing ever happens. And even when he had like a major, like not major, but like for him major, you know, he hurt his calf and, you know, he did not skip a beat. I mean, he did it early on in class and we had no idea. Like it was still a hard workout, everything. And that thing, like he ended up having to go to PT, it bruised up huge. He didn't miss a single day over it. Like he is a true professional. Like it is so like much an honor to be one of his students. And I just appreciate him so much. So anyways, like I say, everything we do is a choice. So, you know, before I started actually filming, I was like, okay, I'm going to integrate doing, you know, more, because I'm getting a little bit older and some of the research says, you know, it's a good idea to incorporate weight training into your fitness routine. And, it's really never interested me that much. Like, I've tried it before and done different things, but now I was like, okay, I'm going to do this little circuit, and I'll do these things. And but then again, I started getting limited on time, and I had to make choices, and I'm like, okay, well, I am already working out this many hours a day. I'm still getting my steps in. I'm still getting to dance. I'm still on occasion doing a bar or Pilates. So I felt like I had a pretty broad sense of things. In some of those classes we use weights, and so I felt like, okay, I'm getting a little bit of it. If something's got to go, this one isn't part of my daily routine, I'm going to let it go. And so, and sometimes when I've been at the gym afterwards, I've been hitting like a few times, I think it's now less than 10, but like I've been trying to incorporate and have the courage to go over to the weight room area and try the resistance machines and do the different things. And so last week, because of scheduling and things like that, I didn't get the opportunity to go over there. I didn't do any at home kind of weights. And so this morning, because I was done super early, I was so energized and pumped from my dance workout that I was like, what, I'm gonna go over there and try it. So I think it'd been a week. I think I did go over last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago now. Time flies when you're having fun. I think it was actually 2 weeks ago, because I remember it was a Saturday, and I was like, wow, it is very busy, and it has a whole different vibe of people in the weight area on a Saturday versus a Tuesday morning. It's like it's very different crew there. But we ended up, we as in me and myself and I ended up doing, and all the other people in the club that wanted to do the weight machines were all over there doing the weight machines. And the funny thing is I happened to see, as I left the class, I considered doing the one after. It was like a boot camp class. And I love that instructor. She kicks your butt. She's got the most killer English accent. She's got good music. I love her stories. But she's got really hard workouts, and I'm like, I just, I don't know if I'm there today, like, I don't know if I'm boot camp ready, so I opted not. But I was walking out, and I saw one of the dads from one of the kids that, he's a freshman in college that played with my son for many, many years. So we said hi, and, I asked how his son was, walked past or whatever. And then I go over into the weight room, and I see one of my son's, like, best friends on the soccer field, like one of his core four. And I didn't bother to like say hi or anything. Like, he was with his headphones. Like, I'm not gonna be like chasing him around like, hi, I was like, seriously, we're good. It's fine. I'm doing my thing, and he's over there doing his thing. It's fine. If we would have caught eye contact or been near each other, I would have waved or done something. But I was like, it's good. I don't need this whole awkward thing. But I was thinking as I was doing that, I said, it's so interesting. Had it been a couple years prior, here it was a Saturday, and it would have been, it was like almost like a soccer team reunion, because it would have been like, potentially on a Saturday morning, we would have all been at the same place at the same time then. And I don't know why, it just made this weird connection in my mind that like how life changes. Like before, the three of us who were absolutely strangers, right? And then, we, by sake of having kids at the same time, or being a kid born at the same time as two of the people, we ended up spending all this time ish together. It's not we're really together. We're, doing the same thing at the same place. And, basically you're sharing this space for, years and years, because my son played with him since they were like 5 years old, 6 years old. And then, this other kid he played with for, I don't know, since he was 9, 10, 11, something like that, like young, still so many years. And, I just think it's so interesting how, like I started thinking how even if I would have never known them, even if we never would have played soccer, obviously every single circumstance would have changed. But there was a chance that all three of us would have ended up in the same room at the same time in the same place again. And I just think that was interesting, and that in a different time and in a different place that we would have all been together like on a soccer field. And I just think like it just makes this world really small. And sometimes, it makes me really realize the people that you are next to, and sometimes they're strangers today, but maybe tomorrow they become become your best friend or a coworker or an inspiration. So like everybody has these stories and these passions and these interests. And, you know, I think it's just so fascinating to just kind of know them, just even experience a part of their energy field. It's really cool. So, you know, and then I started thinking too, I was thinking about, you know, how like, about people's dreams and about how like I'm on this machine and one, you know, this machine used to not exist, right? So like it wasn't here, it never wasn't here. And then one day somebody or a team of somebody's had this idea and they're like, hey, let's, you know, make this machine. And then, you know, how I started like thinking about like, okay, well, how did this machine get here? Like if we think about like all the steps like it took for this dream to become a reality. So like it started off in somebody's mind, and then there was like maybe a team of people, or maybe they like made a prototype themselves, and you know, then they went to a company or they made the company themselves, and then, you know, they went someplace and, you know, they tried to sell it to somebody, and, you know, they probably got a lot of no's, and then somebody, you know, said, yes, we'll do it. And then, you know, they sold it to a gym, and, you know, like, I don't know how the whole progression went, but, you know, you think about that, how many steps are involved into achieving your dreams and just how patient you have to be. But like, if you stick with it and you make some consistent choices, like it is possible. Everything around us is somebody's dream coming true. And so there's no reason that same principle can't be applied to you and me. We can make our dreams come true. And I think for a long time for me, the issue has been like, you know, I had like certain dreams like, oh, okay, I want to be, you know, a real estate investor and I want to own all these properties. And, you know, then that will give me the luxury to like, it was just a means to an end. Like, it wasn't like this was my everything. It was just like, this would then give me the opportunity to go out and live my real dreams of like writing, traveling, photography, you know, all those, spending time on the beach, you know, just unwinding, not having all the stress of life. So I think, you know, I had this dream of what I considered was a dream of owning all these properties, doing all these things. And it wasn't the actual dream. So the energy that was going to, it was like a means to an end. You know, the energy that I was putting into it and the energy I was receiving back from it, you know, and it was a very safe thing. I knew real estate. I would help my dad since I was a young girl. And then you know, at one point in time, I had my own real estate license. I worked in the real estate industry for many years between on the real estate side and the loan side. So it was something very familiar, and it wasn't, I felt confident in it. I didn't feel like I had to learn all this new stuff. So it was like, oh, okay, this is like a no-brainer. You know, my dad owns real estate offices. Like it's a seeming easy transition. And then again, as I started getting more and more into it, and then like studying how like the new things have changed and the ways in which I wanted to approach it, I kind of like, it was again starting to feel like work. It wasn't feeling like this is it. And, you know, like I say, when I'm doing this doesn't feel like work. Even when I'm sitting up, like I have to be like, get off the phone, stop reading right now about how to do this, because I'm so excited about doing this. Like, I want to just spend all this time to figure out, how do I get it out there? What is the best way? Like, so it's really interesting how, when they say, like, when you do something you love, it isn't work. And that's true. Even though I'm technically working, here it is Saturday night, I'm like, woohoo, I get to go tape now. And like, I'm excited to make something that, you know, is going to go out there and hopefully connect with somebody. And so that's pretty cool to me. Like, I love that so much. And, you know, life is just so filled with all these opportunities to make different choices. And, you know, like I was saying before, you know, I like to start small. And so this was like a little thing, but I was like, okay, maybe I should try it. And again, everything is trying. It's just trying different things, see what works. If it doesn't work, or it's like, it doesn't feel right to me, scrap it. Don't do it anymore. That's okay. Like adapt, change, whatever it is. So, I did two things. So one thing was I really, really, really wanted to write a good review for Simone's Bakery because I just love her story. Again, I love a story of when I walk in there, again, it's the same thing like the fitness equipment. It was an idea in her mind, and she followed through with it all the way to the end. And was it easy all the time? No. Like, there were, obviously must have been financial struggles. They had a GoFundMe, like there were, things like challenges and things that they don't expect and equipment that was needed that they didn't have. I mean, you're going through the thing. It's not just like I had this dream and then all of a sudden it came true and it was so perfect and easy. And if that happened to you, like awesome. So happy for you. You are so evolved on your journey that you nailed it on the first go. Like I am not there yet. And so, like teach me your ways. I'd like to be there, but I also know that in every mistake there is a lesson. So it's only considered a mistake if you don't learn a lesson. So I'm learning lessons all along the way of things that I should do, shouldn't be doing, and could do differently. And that's part of the fun. That's part of the challenge here. And so I really wanted to write a review, but I didn't have a Yelp presence. So for so many years, like, I didn't want a Yelp presence because it was like, I didn't want people to know, like, I was very like hidden, like when I was a little girl, bombarding myself in a bedroom, like literally putting all kinds of stuff in front of my door so nobody can come in, and then going into my closet and hiding in my closet, and then like putting stuff in front of my closet so nobody can find me. Like I just wanted to hide away. And I think it was just from a result of like so many years carrying all this shame and all the burdens of, childhood that was unexplained and wasn't processed with an adult brain or with an adult, and so I was only left to my own, and even the people around me weren't adults themselves, they were kids. But I went through a lot of really scary, horrifying experiences, and I'm not saying that there weren't any great ones. They just didn't traumatize me. The good ones were there as well. Like there were days that were great, they just, and I'm not even saying I only think about, because I don't. I do think about the good ones, but it's the hard ones that I now talk about, and I'm trying to make sense of to the young me so that I can heal and grow now. And like, and I know it sounds so silly, but like having those conversations with myself as a child, I know I can't even, I get it. It sounds wonky tonky. But going back and being able to, almost like nurture and, process that experience where I wasn't alone anymore, that there was somebody, and that even if that somebody is just an older version of me, to know like I got through it, number one, like I survived it, whatever it was. And, to tell myself like, it wasn't your fault. Like, and even sometimes, as much as I'm a talker, it's not even a talk. It's like to just sit with myself in the room, where I was playing Barbies and alone. And, I can go back to those events, and it's, I can go back to the trauma, the big events, but, more of the hard parts were just the everyday, thinking about, well, how did that little girl go to school the next day? How, what changes occurred in her? Like, how did she even get dressed? How did she even just brush her teeth? Like, how was she able to just pull herself out of bed and have no, like, any type of communication about what happened? It was just almost like you had to bury it, don't talk about it, don't think about it, pretend it didn't happen, yet it's still there haunting you. And so I think that having had this experience kind of holistically come up, and again, everything has been slow. And I think that my body knows what it can and can't handle. And it's taken each little step, each little part of my progress to get to the next and say, okay, I'm ready to handle this. And then there's sometimes that I'm like, I have this one book, I think it's called like, and I've read very little of it, but I had naturally began almost doing this inner child work. And I didn't really realize, but I had been talking to, at that time, Chris and I had a couples therapist and for many years. And so she was like, it's interesting you're saying this. I just started, this one book. So she had recommended it and I got it, and I had read very little and some of the things I was just doing naturally. It was like my body knew the answers anyways, before it would even knew about these things. So anyways, I say all that to say there's sometimes that I'm like, I'm just not there mentally today to be able to do, read this book or go to that place again, because it is difficult. It is, it does bring up a lot of things. So like I said, when I sat down and did my own personal trauma timeline, I recommend and don't recommend it, I recommend it for the fact that it was the first time in my entire life that I had, so what I did one day was like, I had this trauma timeline. It was basically the traumas I've experienced that like I could recollect. And, sometimes it was like something would come to me later. It kind of took, I think, about a couple weeks to go through. And I only actually got to like age 25. I didn't even like go beyond that. But, it was those first 25 years that were really inundated with it. And those first 25 years that I didn't have the prefrontal cortex and the knowledge or the personal resources to kind of process these things. So these things have been like left festering and haunting me. And so being able to just simply write them out, like things that there are things on there nobody knows. There are things on there I've never said to anyone. I've never told anyone, not even my therapist that I've had for many, many years, it's just been like, okay, just, it happened. That's it. Okay, good, goodbye. It happened. We're going to pretend it didn't happen or not think about it, or if I do think about it, it's just going to be there. And so I think when I did this trauma timeline for myself, and that's what I called it, it was the first time I saw it in a chronological version. And like I said, I got to like a part of elementary school and I just was like, this kid, like it was the first time in my life that I had ever really like genuinely like felt sympathetically like sorry for myself. Like I felt so sorry for this girl. I was like, oh my, if this was a movie, I would be like in tears for this kid. I, would be so rooting for her because I root for the underdog naturally, probably because I am one. But I was just like, I was stunned, like, because I was like almost not, it like these things weren't me. I was just writing them down. And so like being able to see, like write it all out in a chronological version for me was really like freeing, and being able to just, number one, write it, and number two, in this chronological way. And I was just like, everything that I saw as a mistake I did or something I did wrong, or, a reaction I had that I wasn't proud of, it made sense. It made sense. I'm not saying it was right and I'm not defending it, but all of a sudden it was like, yeah, no wonder why you were, behaving this way. No wonder why you're yelling. No wonder why you're, it's no surprise that this is the result of this. And basically it came to the point where it was like, after seeing all that, I was like, well, here I have been making big changes in my life. And, physical changes are a challenge in one way. Spiritual changes are another challenge in another way. Emotional, mental, they're all their own challenges, right? And so, I was able to look at my life and say, yeah, I was molested. I was raped. I witnessed a suicide attempt at a very young age. My parents divorced. I parented my parents. I've witnessed many people die. I have, had kids that have had crazy health conditions, and that's just like the top few. I got married to somebody I didn't know because I was pregnant, and like I just so many things like that had occurred, and just physical violence, like there, I mean, it just goes on and on. And I just was like, no wonder you didn't talk to anybody about like it. These things weren't talked about, even with somebody like your grandma, who was your soulmate, who adored you. You kept these things so private and so secret. Like, it just weighed on my soul. And I'm sure, like I was always happy and charismatic and likable, but I am so sure that there was a part of me that was so stone cold and hurt and, angry or abusive. I am positive it, but when I sat there and saw everything at once, like it gave me this also opportunity to say, yeah, these things did happen. We're not going to take any of that away. They are lessons that are going to continue to empower you. And we're going to heal. We're going to heal from these. It's going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight. But I'm going to spend time with each one of like you in my phases of when these things happen. And we're going to heal and we're going to go on. And from that healing, we're going to use that power to help teach and educate others. And the thing is I had the choice. I don't have to be that person that was the result of all those harsh things that had happened to me. I didn't have to be this person that was jaded, that had a chip on the shoulder, that was afraid to show who she was, that was in shame all the time, that felt obligated to fix everybody else, that was willing to not be a person just so that everybody else was happy. And I made that choice, and I made the choice to change. And like I say, I call it my right hand. And for me, that was a good like mental note of like, I'm trying. Like I try not to say the word try. I think of Yoda all the time. And so like, I want to say I'm working on it. And, I am practicing new things. Does that make me perfect every time? No. Do I still have moments that I do things or think things or say things that I prefer I didn't? Yes, absolutely. But the thing is, the more and more I use my left hand, there was an instance even today that the more I use my left hand, the more I think about it, the quicker I am to recognize it. I was cooking in the kitchen, and, I had all my steps done. I had all the things. I was like, okay, I'm planning. This is what I am. This is what I'm going to have today. I'm going to make these Mediterranean chicken. It's like they're these Mediterranean chicken tacos. They're divine. I love them. So I had, put hummus. I warm the pita up. I put hummus on that. I chop up cucumber and tomato and cilantro and avocado and grilled chicken and put that all into, like, chop it all up, and I put it all into a thing. I let it marinate with the red wine vinegar, a little bit of lemon, a little bit of salt, and then, I warm up the pitas, put a little hummus on there. Sometimes I didn't have Greek yogurt today, but sometimes I put a little Greek yogurt, feta cheese. I love that. And I really like it, right? So I come in and I'm cooking, and suddenly, Chris had came in and he just looks at what I'm cooking. He doesn't say anything or anything. I think he might have waited, but I have my AirPods in. I was using the time to multitask. So I was like listening to a book in my from my Libby app or whatever, the library app. And so I was cooking, and he came in and I couldn't hear if he said something or anything. And then he was like, okay, looked and then left. And so, I took it as like, oh, okay, she's cooking, I'm going to cook. And then, for a minute, my instinct was to be like, when was the last time this person's even cooked for me? Now I can tell you the answer was a week ago today, because it was, our son's birthday and he cooked, but I also cooked too. I cooked part of the meal. He cooked part of the meal. So I can kind of say it was him, but because my eating style and my eating time, he's often not even here when I eat, but immediately, because it was him, like my mind was like, okay, so you're gonna come in, check what I'm eating, not say like, hey, would you like some help, or try to spend time in here or anything, just kind of check it out and then leave and think that I'm gonna cook for everybody. And I like started thinking that, and I was like, left hand. And it's like, stop. First off, you don't even know if he wants to eat this. Second off, you're making this regardless, like, what are you getting your thing in? And I was like, and by the way, be kind. So what? Like, you have no problem in cooking for your kids. Like, so what? Be kind. Like, he's hungry. He's relaxing today. That's okay. Like, he works hard. Like, here, have some of the pita if you want some of the pita. And so, immediately I went there, but I had to catch myself. It doesn't, those default settings with certain default people. And like I say, my default settings with Chris, they are embedded deep. I mean, this showed as an example. And I was like, Natasha, like, seriously, does this matter? Like, yes, it would be nice if somebody would say, hey, would you like some help chopping? But you can also be like, hey, can somebody help me? Like, you don't have to, again, relinquish all your power. When you want something, ask for it. And if they say no, they say no. And you're in the same exact position that you are right now, regardless, right? They'll say no, then you're still chopping everything. They say yes, then they help chop, and that's less of a burden on you. And I start to think about it because, again, these are choices. And I have this frustration that I definitely need a personal chef. I'm every day, like, I literally was reading something today, and it was, it said, it was talking about, like, how to keep focus, how to maintain focus. And it said chief, but it was like, you have to get a chief officer, chief operator, something like this, right? I read chef. Like, this is how much my brain is like wanting to see, I need a personal chef. So anyways, I'm not there yet. I'm far from that, but I'd love a personal chef. I love to eat, but I am just not a fan of cooking. There are certain meals that I make that I love, but I am sure somebody who actually loves to cook is gonna kill it. I'll be like, this is what I do, and they'll probably take it, and I'll be like, listen, what I was making tastes like garbage. And I have no problem saying that, because it's not my thing. I don't love it. So anyways, I go in there, but then I also did some kinds of meal prep, because this week I didn't have any, listen, this sounds like straight up soccer mom problems. I didn't have any overnight oats this week because I didn't have time to prep them. So I made two things of overnight oats. And I didn't have any energy, my protein balls that I like to eat, because I love my sweets. And so, like, I get upset and sad, not upset and sad, but I'm like, oh, I just have no sweet today. Like, for after my meal, I like to end, with a delightful sweet treat. And we have all kinds of chocolate and different ice cream around, but like, there wasn't anything I wanted. And for some reason, these energy ball things, protein balls, whatever they're called, they actually hit the spot. And it's like, I make them, they have like almond butter, oats, protein powder, chia seeds, cranberries, white chocolate, a little bit of cinnamon. I think there's a little bit of maple syrup in there. I think I said almond butter, but if I didn't, I'm going to say it again. A little bit of vanilla. And I just roll them into balls, and like, I pop a couple of them in after a meal, and like, they satisfy me. They like achieve that little sweetness that I crave. And I feel like, hey, I'm at least getting protein in. Like, I don't know, like calorie wise, I'm not tripping on that. Like, my recent goal has been to like up my protein. And so I feel like that helps facilitate that. And, it kills two birds with one stone. I feel like I got my sweet treat, and they're like ready to go. So I prepped a double batch of that. So I ended up literally being in the kitchen between prepping, chopping, cooking, cleaning, making the two, prepping the oats, the overnight oats, and the which again, this is my fourth batch at it, whatever. I've only had it a couple times, but I really liked it because again, that was like a nice, like sweet treat for me. And so I cut up a bunch of fruit. So I ate that. And then my son wanted, an acai bowl, and I haven't had one in a long time too. So I was like, okay, fine or whatever. So we made this negotiation. We were going to split half a pita. So he was going to make the pita while I made the acai bowl. So I made the acai bowl, but it literally ended up being almost 4 hours I was in that kitchen. And I literally know that to be true because I listened to a whole audiobook that was 4 hours. And so I'm like, listen, I choose to not spend 4 hours in the kitchen revolving around food and eating and cleaning. I don't know. So, I mean, granted, that also fed Chris actually at the end of the day didn't even want this. So again, thank you, right hand, for getting all in your head for a second there. But thanks to my shower, I was able to regulate myself. I could tell right away. I was like, what is going on? Use my left hand. I'm like, be kind. Who cares? He eats some of the damn pita, make more. It doesn't matter. It's not, he didn't even want it. So he didn't eat it anyways. And it fed Dylan and I, and is going to feed my son Tyler later on tonight because he ate my other leftover I made the other day, the shrimp and pasta. He ended up eating the rest of that, or not the rest, but he ended up eating some of that. So, it is a challenge, right? Especially in relationships and with people that, again, him and I aren't on the best of terms. I mean, right now it's been actually very peaceful amongst us. Like I said, I adored the card he gave me because it's just simply said he wanted the best for me. And I felt like for the first time in our marriage, that was actually genuinely true, and, usually it was like he wanted the best for him. And that wasn't always what was the best for me. And I think that he's learned and he's grown just as much as I have learned and grown. We've just started doing it in very different ways. And I think at the end of the day, one of our challenges is we just have different values. We have different lifestyles and we have different visions of what our life is going to be. And so, I find sometimes the weekend's a challenge because, there's that part of me that still feels very wanting to make the people around me happy. I still, I know it's not my job, but it's just by nature. I want to make people smile. I want to, bring out the best in them. And I don't always do that with Chris. And I know he loves watching TV. So from, the time that he's woke up until, except for the little bit that he was in the kitchen cooking his food, he's been watching TV all day. And I think about all the things that I've done and accomplished. And then, and everybody does their own thing, but I'm I know he doesn't like being alone. So it makes me sad. This is the part that makes me sad, is I don't have a full day or even 5 minutes. I mean, there's been shows that I've wanted to watch and I just don't have time to, I choose to not. So it's if I'm going to watch a show, I have to choose to not do all these other things. And I only have so many hours. And if I'm spending 4 hours in the kitchen a day, that's rough. But I know it'll mean that tomorrow overall I'll be less in the kitchen on other days, or I'll be satisfied because I have these little sweet treat things that I enjoy. So, it was worth it. And it was a bomb. Yesterday's meal was I really was craving it. It was just an egg sandwich. And I think it just had too much cream cheese or something. It was I even had hot sauce on it and my Cholula sauce. And it just didn't hit the spot. It just didn't hit the spot. It was fine. I mean, it hit the spot. I was full. I was content. But I was yeah, today's meal was not a 10. And in my mind, it was going to be a 10. And it wasn't. So that was kind of a disappointing. So, but today's was smacked. It would and then it just, it feels so healthy. I don't like red onion. I know a lot of people put red onion in it, or I'll eat it if it's in something, but I'm not chopping it up and putting it in my own on intention. And some people put olives or different things, but I don't know. It was really, really good. Super filling. The chicken was super moist. So, I can cook. I just again, it's, if I had that 4 hours, I think to myself, oh my God, I could literally have filmed. I'd rather be filming here, sitting here talking to myself, talking to you for 4 hours than, you know, in the kitchen, but that's okay. I also liked eating healthy. I know I could have like hopped in the car and went and picked up something that would make me feel yucky and gross. So that there is that alternative, or even order and get like DoorDash in or something like that. But it tastes so gross every time you order something in. Like it, I don't know. I'm just too picky, I guess. I, you know, am unsatisfied by like half melted drinks and, you know, cold food. I don't know. It just is like, oh, what's the point of eating this? Like, I want it to be good at least, you know, like some minimal goodness. So I think, you know, it's worth investigating. Like if you have a therapist, if you have somebody, I don't know how far you need to be in your journey to be able to do something like that, but be nice to yourself, because my trauma timeline may look, you know, on paper, like sound worse than yours, or yours may sound 1,000 times worse. Like you're like, I wish those were my problems, right? But it doesn't matter. Your trauma, my trauma, her trauma, his trauma, it is the same thing. And there is not a single one of us that have gone by this life and not experienced some form of trauma. And whether it be a cold shower or an argument with your spouse, like you are still like dysregulated. You are still a mess inside. And sometimes you have people to talk about it with, and that's great. And you've processed it and things like that. But a lot of times I think a lot of us haven't. I don't think we had the tools. It wasn't something we talked about as commonly back then. And even then, there's so much shame. And a lot of people who we're talking to, right? Like if I was to even say like, you know, I'm so upset this happened, who am I talking to? I'm going to go talk to my parents who are going to feel bad, and they didn't have the tools themselves. They're going to defend their actions. They're not going to validate me. You know, I didn't know what validation was. I didn't know what that meant or how that looked. Again, that was like another thing in therapy. I'm like, wait, so explain to me this. And still it absolutely confuses me, you know? And so like I'm learning and how to like be a better listener, because that's a part of communication. And to, you know, I think because I have a great memory, I'm a great listener. And if you tell me something, I'm probably going to remember it. Most likely, more chances than not, I'm remembering it. I'm remembering the details. Like people will say all the time, like you have a very good memory, because I'm really trying to engage and listen and remember what you're saying. But I also get super excited. So sometimes I find myself interrupting or anticipating what they're saying. And it's like, I'm just this like little kid that's so excited to be talking to you that like, I need to calm it down and remind myself that like, part of being a good communicator is being a good listener and hearing what you have to say too. So that's why it's really important for me that you communicate with me and tell me some of the things that, you know, like you've accomplished. Like I'd love to share and celebrate you as well. It's really important to me. It's why I'm here. It's why I'm doing this. And I just want you to know you're so important, and like never minimize your trauma, because your trauma is so real. And if you take a look at it, it makes sense why we make these decisions that we make that we aren't proud of, and then we're ashamed, and then we just kind of keep perpetuating the same loop until one day we say, no more. This is day one, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be messy. You will lose people. You will lose people temporarily or forever. I mean, I remember when I started making changes. Again, I am the type of person, and I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but this was how I did it. And you know, these were some of the reactions. I'm just going to be honest here. So like with me, when I start to do a change, when I start to make changes, it's like I overcompensate. So it's like, oh, okay, you know, I over work out, or I over do self-care, or and then I kind of like, okay, this isn't sustainable. Like this is good, this is fine, this is whatever it is, like this works, but I'm part of a community. It's not just Natasha's, you know, world and everybody else is living in it. You know, I understand I have to have more balance. You know, again, going from no self-care to all kinds of self-care when you still have kids and people, like there's other people in your life that want your time and your energy. And other commitments and things. So, finding that, like, going from here, then I go sometimes to an extreme, and then I kind of like figure out, okay, here's the Goldilocks zone. Here is the part that is sustainable. It isn't too much. It isn't too little. It still fulfills me. It just hits that perfect spot. But it takes a lot of like trial and error to get to that spot. And so even when I began this journey, my kids who love me, like, I know they love me. There is no question in my mind that even no matter what they've said, they've said things, I know it's a shock. It's a real shock. There's things that they've said to one another, and I've either heard on accident or, somebody snitched and was like, you know what this one said about you? I'm like, listen, first off, you're not supposed to tell me these things. Like, that's supposed to stay between you guys, but it's fun to like, mess with them because I know they don't mean, I know they don't mean it. So like, or in the heat of the moment, they're just flooded and triggered and they're going to say stupid things, right? Like, and maybe in that moment it is true. They hate me. I don't know, like it could be very well true. It's possible. Crazier things have happened, but I think overall, that isn't true. So I believe I say all that to say, I do believe like those 4 people, of any people on earth, love me and really do want what's best for me. But even at that time when I was making changes, it was a challenge for them because mom just wasn't available to do everything they wanted. And mom sometimes said no. And not like I was well with saying no, because I was like, I come from the theory that like I tell them all the time, listen, if you like me all the time, there is a good chance I'm not doing a good job at my job. My job is to be your parent. My job is to teach you responsibility, morals, teach you about life, instill values in you. But what you latch on and keep is for yours. But if you like me all the time, I'm probably not doing a good job at my job. That means I am like curtailing to you. Whatever you want, you are running the show and I'm just here to accommodate you. And that didn't work for me. Like, I was like, nope, life isn't fair. We're not doing all these things. So, we're doing chores. We are, contributing, volunteering. There's things that are going to happen while you live in this house. If you don't want to, when you live out of this house, by all means, do all the things you want. Just while you're here under my roof, it's my roof, my rules. So, that's just the way it's going to go. You're going to have bedtimes. And I know your friends don't get bedtimes, and now they don't have a bedtime, but like, it's for many years there were bedtimes. And I think it was just until like this last year that I was just like, again, I pick and choose my battles. I'll still go in and be like, listen, it's bedtime. Like, turn it down, get to bed. And sometimes in life, I'm like, you just gotta pick your battles. Like, is this battle worth fighting anymore? I mean, they're 18 and 16. Like, they don't need a 9 o'clock bedtime anymore. It's okay. But I say all that to say, it is a challenge, because even though I'm very confident with that love, it was a struggle. Like, there were times, and especially with my daughter, because she is definitely more vocal. But like, she would clearly state her disapproval of some of my choices and decisions. And, there were like times I would joke, I'd be like, listen, I'm in semi-retirement now. Cause she would be like, well, it is your job to cook. It is your job to clean. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't sign up to be a chef. I didn't sign up to be a housekeeper. Nowhere in the mothering guidebook did it say I needed to do that. And I'm so sorry that there is this misconception that was somehow communicated to you either verbally or by my actions. But no, that's not what I signed up for. Like, I signed up to be your mom. Yes. And I'm doing a really good job at that. But being a shorthand cook, no, that's not my job. And, there were other instances where, she was, not in support of some of the decisions I was making at that time. And that's okay. Like, I was like, you don't have to agree with and support or understand. Like, especially when I first started going to the gym, the kids didn't understand, because now there were times of the day I wasn't physically here or physically like available to them within an instant. It was like, my ringer is off. I can't hear you when I'm in there, you know, like my phone is away. I am just here. And, you know, they didn't like that. Well, we needed to know where this was. I was like, that is so great. Between the four of you, there are 8 eyes, and I hope you guys found it. You know, like it was really hard. And then, you know, I could say that like with like, you know, maybe some confidence to them, but then I would lay down in bed that night and be like, am I doing too much? Like, should I cut back the gym? Like, they needed me and I wasn't here. And, you know, a lot of doubts would try to slip in. And I really had to like kind of say, okay, maybe I can go less. What can I do? I really had to play with it and find like where my balance was and what was important to me. And eventually I was just like, I need to do these self-care, self-love actions in order to survive. Like, this is survival. And in order to survive is great. Like, that's a foundation. But then I also want to thrive. And these are part of the things that bring me so much joy. Like being on call to find your, you know, your left shoe that you should have put back in the cubbies where they would have been is not in my responsibility. And I know that I was able to be that person for them for so long, like for their entire lives. And then all of a sudden I wasn't. And so when I would joke around, I'm like, I'm in semi-retirement now. You know, my youngest ones are soon to be adults themselves. And then I'll be in full retirement. And they're like, you don't, you know, especially my daughter, you don't get to retire from being mom. I'm like, well, I get to retire from being this level of mom. Yes, I do. I'm going to choose to retire. I'm still going to be involved in your lives. It's not like I, you know, just peace out forever and know anything. But like for me, like that's been a mental thing. I'm like, I've been a mom since I was 2 years old. It's been 45 years, you know, and it doesn't mean I'm not going to be a mom. It just means like I'm retiring from that fantasy mom I had created in my mind as a little girl when my mom wasn't there. That combination of June Cleaver and, you know, all, you know, the Brady Bunch mom and every other TV show I watched and every girlfriend's house I went to and saw their mom, you know, cutting their strawberries and braiding their hair and, you know, picking them up from school. All those things I saw, the PTA moms and the, you know, the moms watching their daughters play tennis, like all those fantasies, all those little images, every mother I read in a book. I'm retiring her because she was never real. And I kept holding myself to this bar, to this inhuman, super woman mom who didn't have the life experiences I had, who, you know, didn't have the children I have. And I'm trying to fit myself into this mold and beating myself up and setting the expectations to the kids and Chris and anyone around that this is who I am, while inside I was slowly dying. And it was just not fair to myself. So I am retiring her. And who I am, this is the real mom I am. And I'm going to be there and I'll be your ride or die. You know, I've spent already, you know, a couple hours chatting with my boys today, again, because I love chatting and they seem to like chatting back with me. You know, like we have these conversations. I hear about what they're working on and, you know, what my son, like he is making me so proud. One of them, I mean, they all make me so proud, but he is listening to the little lessons I teach. And I always encourage them. I'm like, just reach out to these people. Who knows? They'll answer or they won't. Like, you guys know how to use these DMs and, you know, whatever at them. I don't know how to do all these things yet. But reach out to people. People overall are usually pretty nice and they want to share what they know. Yeah, sometimes when they get so big, they have a team and a staff, and maybe somebody will reach you, or maybe it'll get ghosted, whatever. I'm like, but these people that you're talking with and you're engaging with, like, take the chance, ask them, how did you become pro? How did you do these things? Like, what do you have to lose? He doesn't answer. Okay, so what? He answers, he gives you some information. I was like, that is what life is about. It's making connections and sharing of information. It's not about like gathering information and holding it to yourself and keeping it selfishly. I'm like, ha ha ha, I have this information. I'm better than you and now you don't have it. Like, no, let's share. Like, I used to think all the time when I was trying to research this information about my son's seizures and his cavernous malformation. I'm trying to do all this research. I'm doing all these things. And I'm like, why isn't there just a central database? It's like everything is, you go here, you go here, you go here. Like, you know, if you just put in the name of something and then everything on that topic should just come up. Like, it should be just centralized for doctors, for everything. Like, this sharing of knowledge, this sharing of research would just make this world such a better place. And so I would tell him that. And so like just minutes before I was about to tape, he was like, okay, Mom, so I'm gonna, you know, reach out to this one player. What was it again? How do you think I should word it? You know, should I say it like this? And I was like, say it from your heart. Just say whatever it is you want to know. Like, the words, you know, don't have to be right. Just like, I'm curious, how did, you know, tell me your story. How did you go from amateur player to a professional? Like, what was your journey? Like, and you know, what connections did you make? Like, just ask, like, you know, it's, so I think it's great. And so like, I keep wanting to say this, like, again, it's starting small. So last week, I, you know, had this idea and I really wanted to write this review because I care about this family. And I don't know why they're so invested in my heart, probably because, again, I love to eat and her treats are so amazing. So I just need to make sure she stays in business forever so I can selfishly eat her treats. They're a part of my self-care. But I know, I really, again, I can relate to being a mom and having kids and wanting to be this role model and this business owner. So I have been in many of her shoes. My kids are now older and grown. And then again, I've known her husband for years. I didn't know they were connected. And when we made the, you know, the mental connection that, oh my gosh, I am here. Like, I should be ordering and just having him bring it into my PT sessions. That would save me a lot of time and energy. But I would have to do a lot more workouts because I have no self-control. But I want to say this too. She had her grand opening this weekend and she was closed by 12:30 because she sold out. She was supposed to stay open until 5. So I'm like, see, there's something there. Like when I saw her, I was like, I think one of the most awesome things is that you're actually real. You're being vulnerable with the highs and the lows, and you're sharing without fear your full journey. It was like, for me, for so long, I was hidden. I didn't want to yell because I didn't want anybody to know where I ate or where I went or what I did. Like, I wanted to keep this persona of what I was and who I was and all this stuff, like, so private and nobody to know me. I never did a LinkedIn. I was like, I don't need one. But I was like, you know what? I want to do a Yelp. I'm going to start doing some reviews of places I've been recently or in the past. I have lots of photos wherever I go because even though I don't have that same like energy with the photography as I used to, I still love taking photos. And especially of any kind of landscapes or beaches or ocean or sunsets or clouds. Like I will still, like, sometimes when I'm running in my room, like out the window, see something magnificent about the way that the blooms on the tree and the way the sun is coming out and the way the clouds are with the bright white and the dark gray. And it just looks like heaven, to me. Like, I don't know. And the birds, like, so I still take a lot of photos. They're just with my camera, my phone most of the time, because I'm not carrying around my other big lug of a camera. And so I started, because I was like, well, I want people to take the review I write for her serious. I don't want it to get like buried away. So I was like, okay, let me, I had to be very strategic about this. I was like, okay, let me like write some other reviews for a couple days. And then I'm going to write her review closer to the grand opening, because if she's not open yet, I don't want people to go there and it's still closed. It's not open yet. So she was opening today. So finally last night, she was, I believe, my 20th review or 19th review, something like that. And, I looked back at it. I was like, see, this is again proof of starting small. what last week I had 0. I didn't even have a thing. I actually have my own face on there, on the thing. I have my actual name. Like before it would be like a fake name and a sunset picture, like I was like, no, this is real. This is how I feel. Like these are my opinions. And like people will be like, great reviews. I'm like, what the heck? I mean, I like your reviews. Good picture. Thanks. That was helpful. Like I was like, hey, that like somebody's actually even reading these, the whole intent was to help her. And so it's interesting how it's helped other people, but like she was my motivation for it, which then made me think, I should probably start a LinkedIn. Like I don't know where this is going to go or where this is going to evolve to, but I was like, I think that's a good part to go, since I'm writing a book, I'm doing this, like there's so many different things. I was like, I'm going to do that. And so again, I used my own actual picture. I didn't do the whole thing perfectly, but I got it up there. I got enough information on there. And I sent out a few connection requests. And what I had first was 0. I didn't have any. I remember like telling my kids like, hey, I know people are probably going to think I'm like some kind of spam thing. Can you guys like be my friend on LinkedIn? So I had 2. And then, I slowly have grown and I have like 27 friends now. And like, you could be like, oh, wow, big networker over there. But that's 27 more connections I have today than I had before. And what went from 0 to 1 to 2 in a week. I've had 27. So now I have it in my calendar every Thursday. I'm going to go in because I reached my limit. I think you can only ask like 100 people to be your connections or whatever. And I'm not like these people I don't know. Like, I just am like, I'm interested in this industry. So, or in this topic. So, I asked them and I'm like, what the heck? Where's the worst thing they're going to do? Say, ignore or no, I'm not going to be in connection with you. Okay. So what? I wasted a millisecond of my life. I mean, it's not a waste because I'm not going to make 100% of the shots I shoot. So, okay, that's fine. And at least I'm establishing this. And what it does is it reminds me that it is true. Just starting small and what was nothing can blossom into something. And that's what this is. And that's what your dreams are. And so start small, do something. And then one day there will be something. You will have that weight equipment in the room. You will have the bakery. You will have the online presence. You will have the book written in your hand. And then, like I said, the quote that sold it to me for all is, someday you will be somebody's favorite author. Oh my gosh, just stop and think about that. Like, think about who your favorite author is. Think about who your favorite musician is, or your favorite band, or your favorite artist, or your favorite painter, like whatever it is. Think about that. And all the difference between you and them is, okay, maybe they had some raw natural talent too in that area, but they did it. Like, they went for it. That's the only difference between you and them. And that's it. Like, so we really can be anything we put our energy into. And I just, like, I feel like I need to keep beating that, like, over with just keep saying that. And then having these points and these validations, like, yes, it is true. Like, you can turn nothing into something, because there was no LinkedIn Natasha a week ago, and there was no Yelp Natasha a week ago, and those are two like small, like, who can, like, non, like, really mattering things, but yet there they are now. They're there and they do matter to somebody. Like, somebody had, a few somebodies have liked photos, a few somebodies have said, I really like your reviews, a few somebodies have said this. And so you're like, it does matter. It does add up. And all those choices we make or don't make do affect our life. Every choice we make, it changes our path. It alters our future. And so keep making choices that you're proud of. You will have slip-ups. You'll have moments like I did in the kitchen where I was like, of course, you just want to come and eat after all the fruits of my labor. But you get that choice to be like, listen, you're jumping to some big conclusions here. You're mind reading. You don't know what's going on. And God forbid the guy just wants to eat some food that you've already are cooking. What is so bad about that? And I'm like, you're right. There is nothing wrong with that. Like, he is a nice person. He deserves to eat food too. Like, sometimes it's nice to be treated. And I think because, I have this vigilant protection of myself now, and I don't want to be taken advantage, and I don't want to be seen as this person that just serves and lives to please everybody else anymore. And it's been the hardest to let go of with Chris, that it's a struggle for me, but I'm catching it. And I wasn't like mean to him, or I wasn't like, because other times I'd be like, of course you just want to have it. And he didn't even say that, and he didn't even want it in the first damn place. So, here I got upset for half a minute, and then I was like, listen, we don't have to be that person anymore. And we choose not to. And I'm not, and I'm cool, like, we're cool. I'm going to go ask them how, he's been binge watching a bunch of reality shows. So like he's been through America's Got Talent. He's been through Amazing Race, and all these were shows we used to all watch together. But again, simply, I am choosing with my time to do so many more productive things that, that I don't have the time to just sit and watch somebody else live their dreams anymore. I'm either going to be on it and do it, or I just, if I'm doing something else, maybe, but then I'm like torn in my attention. So again, I can't even tell you the last thing beyond the Super Bowl that I've even watched on TV, beyond like my news that I go to, not news, but the Inside Edition that I go to sleep to. So what else has he binge watched? Hell's Kitchen. He's been like on a reality show, which is good because it's like light shows. So it's not like emotional or, like anything like that. And he's currently on Survivor. So when I fill up my water here, I'm about to ask him, so of all the ones, which one is his favorite? So I'm actually going to watch, because I watched The Big Brother all by myself, and I would say that's probably the last show I've watched. And I'm going to watch the Survivor because I love Survivor. I think it's a great show, and it's light. It's not, it's not like you're emotionally tied or anything. It's not, things like that. It's a feel good show for me. So I love it. It's been a part of my adulthood. Like I said, I've been watching it since I was pregnant with Bradley, and I've seen every episode except for the last 2 seasons. So I've got a bunch to catch up on, but that's when I've been working, I've been in my Natasha era, and, here we are, like, this is the next phase of this era of my life. And so I have to make some tough choices, and that some of those choices mean I have to abandon some of the things that I used to do, or I like doing, or find a way. And like I keep bringing up the cooking is because it's a struggle. It's, a part of my nutrition. I want to eat healthy. I want to eat good, but I also don't want to be in the kitchen for 4 hours. So I'm trying to, with you guys here, manage to find a way to accommodate it all. And I'm not one of those people that can just meal prep for a week and eat the same chicken and broccoli and rice for an entire week. So, I know that there's options out there, and there's things that I can do. I just am also stubborn and picky. So I need to find like what really works for me. I'm getting there. I'm getting closer, like knowing like, okay, having it planned before, like this is what I'm going to cook, and already like, when I go shopping now, buying like, instead of just 1 week's worth of stuff, buying 2 weeks worth of stuff, like to know I don't need to run back to Costco and use that another, hour in Costco. Cause once I get in there, I'm a wanderer, and, Costco always has these new things, and I got to try them, and I may miss out on something. So, I spend way too much time and way too much money in Costco. But that's okay. Costco Claudia, love you. Shout out to her, my gym buddy, who again is another one of those ladies I just adore, who is out there putting herself out there and has found her passion and joy in the most unexpected places. And I think it's because you get on these paths and you start making decisions, and just naturally the answers begin coming to you, and you're like, I just never saw this for myself, but this feels right. So and if it doesn't, we abandon it, right? And that's okay. And it could be a temporary abandonment, it could be a permanent abandonment, and you could be abandoning it for something else. And it's not, it had its time and its purpose. So, like I say, I have to make these choices because there is only a finite amount of time in a day. And, and this time where I'm doing a lot, eventually, hopefully I'll be able to delegate some tasks and some things like the cooking, like a really good chef. Somebody want to come cook for me? Somebody who just loves cooking, right? Like, this is your passion. That's your deal. I love eating. You love cooking. Perfect. We are a great match. Yeah. So again, I say all this to say, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for spending this last hour of your life listening to me. Hopefully you can listen at like a sped up speed, like I listen to my audiobooks. I'm sure my voice sounds very chipmunky then. So thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you. I'm so excited to be doing this. I wish you the best. Make some choices today that will help to set you up for a better future, and know that regardless of what has happened in your past, that makes sense why you are the way you are. Like, don't beat yourself up about it. Like, be compassionate and be understanding, and know that even though that is the person who you are today, that you can change it, and it's going to take work, and you're going to have days that you go back to using that right hand of yours by instinct. But over time, the more you practice it, the left hand becomes so much more natural, and it will help get you out of a lot of trouble, and it'll help alleviate a lot of angst and anger and resentment that you have harboring in you. And you're gonna have a lot better life, because if you're out there feeling good things, you're sharing good things. Like, you are being that energy that you want to be reflected back to you. So go out there, be kind, share some kindness with somebody, smile, compliment them, do something nice when nobody's watching, and just be a good person out there. Just be nice, okay? So thank you so much. Have a wonderful morning, evening, day. Mwah. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.